The sun was a merciless tyrant, scorching the cracked earth of Willow Creek, Texas, where dust clung to everything like a second skin. In the summer of 1934, the Great Depression had bled the town dry, leaving homes boarded up and dreams withered. Amid this desolation, a woman staggered toward a weathered ranch at the town's edge, her tattered dress flapping like a flag of surrender. Her lips were parched, her eyes hollow, and she knelt at a horse trough, scooping water with trembling hands, drinking like an animal because desperation had stripped her of pride. That was when Amos Carter, a widower with calloused hands and a heart still bruised from loss, stepped onto his porch and saw her. His voice, rough but kind, cut through the silence. "Come inside, ma'am. I've got a cup, and there's more where that came from." Amos wasn't a wealthy man. His ranch was modest, a patchwork of stubborn hope and hard-won survival. At 52, his face bore lines carved by grief. His wife, Clara, had died 5 years prior, and his daughter, Ellie, had left for the city, chasing a life he couldn't give her. The loneliness had settled into his bones, but seeing this stranger at his trough stirred something dormant. She was young, maybe 30, with matted auburn hair and eyes that held a story too heavy for her slight frame. Her name, she'd later tell him, was Lila Mayhew. Lila was a drifter, one of thousands wandering the country, chasing whispers of work or charity. She'd been a schoolteacher once, in a small Kansas town, until the school closed, her savings vanished, and her husband abandoned her for a bottle and a train west. She'd walked for days, surviving on stolen apples and creek water, her dignity eroding with each mile. The trough was her breaking point, the moment she felt less than human. Amos's offer wasn't just water, it was a lifeline inside. Amos set a tin cup of cool water on the table, alongside a plate of cornbread and beans. Lila hesitated, her pride warring with her hunger, but Amos's quiet insistence, "It ain't charity, it's just food," coaxed her to sit. They didn't speak much that first day. Lila ate slowly, as if savoring the act of being treated like a person. Amos watched, not out of pity, but curiosity. Who was she? What had broken her so thoroughly? He didn't ask. Instead, he offered her a place to sleep in the barn, promising no one would bother her. The first challenge came with trust. Lila was skittish, flinching at sudden noises, her eyes darting to the door like she expected betrayal. Years on the road had taught her that kindness often came with a price. Amos, too, wrestled with his own doubts. The last time he'd opened his home, it was to a drifter who stole his tools and disappeared into the night. But something about Lila's quiet resilience, her refusal to beg despite her desperation, made him want to prove her fears wrong. He gave her space, leaving clean clothes and a blanket in the barn without a word. Slowly, she began to linger in the house, helping with small chores like mending fences or tending the chickens. It wasn't payment, she insisted, just a way to feel useful. The second challenge was the town. Willow Creek was a place where gossip spread faster than wildfire. When word got out that Amos was housing a strange woman, whispers turned to accusations. At the general store, folks muttered about that hussy and Amos losing his senses. The preacher, a stern man named Reverend Holt, paid a visit, warning Amos about temptation and proper Christian conduct. Amos, never one for sermons, bristled. "She's a person, not a problem," he snapped, slamming the door. Lila overheard and offered to leave, but Amos wouldn't hear it. "This is my land," he said. "You stay as long as you need." For the first time, Lila smiled, a small, fragile thing, but real.as weeks turned to months, a quiet rhythm developed. Lila's strength returned, her cheeks filling out, her laughter surfacing in rare, unguarded moments. Amos found himself talking more, sharing stories of Clara, of Ellie, of the ranch's better days. Lila spoke of her past too, her love of teaching, the children she'd read to, the husband who'd promised forever and lied. They were two broken pieces, not quite fitting together, but finding comfort in the attempt. Yet the third challenge loomed, purpose. Lila couldn't stay forever, living on Amos's kindness. She needed a reason to keep going, and Amos, too, was grappling with his own stagnation. The ranch was failing, drought had killed half his crops, and his cattle were thinning. The turning point came one evening when Lila found an old crate of books in the attic, relics from Amos's daughter. Among them were children's stories, worn but loved. Lila's eyes lit up, and she asked if she could read to the town's kids, many of whom had no school since the Depression shuttered it. Amos hesitated. Reverend Holt and the townsfolk would object, but he saw the spark in Lila's eyes and agreed. They set up a makeshift classroom in the barn, with Lila teaching reading and arithmetic to a handful of kids whose parents were desperate for help. At first, only a few came, their mothers eyeing Lila warily. But the children's laughter and progress softened the town's judgment. Even Reverend Holt relented when his own grandson begged to join. The final challenge was letting go. By spring, Lila had transformed the barn into a thriving school, and the town had begun to accept her, some even offering small payments in eggs or flour. She'd found her purpose, but it meant she no longer needed Amos's shelter. For Amos, the realization was bittersweet. He'd grown used to her presence, the way she hummed while cooking, the way she challenged his stubbornness with a sly grin. One night, as they sat on the porch, Lila told him she'd saved enough to rent a room in town. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice thick. Amos shrugged, hiding his ache. "You already did, by reminding me what it's like to care." The day Lila left, she hugged Amos tightly, promising to visit. He watched her walk down the road, a woman no longer broken but whole, carrying a satchel of books and a renewed sense of self. The ranch felt emptier, but Amos didn't regret a moment. He'd given her a cup of water and a chance, and in return, she'd given him purpose, a reason to keep his heart open. Years later, when Amos was old and gray, a letter arrived from Ellie, now a mother herself, saying she'd heard about the woman who'd turned his barn into a school. "You always were a stubborn fool for lost causes, Pa," she wrote, "and I love you for it." Enclosed was a photograph of Lila, now a headmistress in Dallas, surrounded by students. Amos smiled, tucking the photo beside Clara's on the mantel. The story of Amos and Lila is one of small acts that ripple outward. In a world that felt like it was crumbling, they found strength and kindness, proving that even in the darkest times, a single gesture, a cup of water, a moment of trust, can rebuild a life. For anyone watching, let this be a reminder: you don't need much to change someone's world. Sometimes, all it takes is opening your door and saying, "Come inside."